Best low-budget films that became box office hits. Sometimes films with a little budget go on to become classic blockbusters. How many of your top picks were produced on a tight budget? It's encouraging to see how many independent movies succeeded and become memorable blockbusters. These movies strike the ideal balance between a tight budget and compelling material, all while generating enormous returns on their investments. Who knows, maybe your favorite film is among those listed here. 1. The Blair Witch Project. The Blair Witch Project introduced viewers to a distinct subgenre of horror film and established the style for many that came after. The independent film, which follows a group of student filmmakers as they try to track down an urban legend, was the first to rely on a viral internet marketing campaign claiming that the events of the film were true, even though it wasn't the first found-footage horror movie. Even though it only had a $60,000 budget, it managed to gross $246.8 million at the box office globally, including $140.5 million domestically. When we tell you that the movie was made in 8 days without a full plot, this number will probably seem even more astounding. 2. Juno. Juno had a huge impact for a modest independent picture with only a $7.5 million budget. Jennifer Garner had to accept a wage cut for the movie because of the tight budget. Surprisingly, the Elliot Page and Michael Cera-led film made $231.4 million worldwide, with $143.4 million of that coming from domestic sales. The movie was nominated for a respectable number of Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, Jason Reitman, Best Actress in a Leading Role, Page, and Best Original Screenplay, and it won the award for the latter. Thanks to its funny and genuine approach to a contentious subject, the movie was a big success, especially with young women. 3. Little Miss Sunshine. Little Miss Sunshine, an independent film, experienced a similar success as Juno. Following its release in 2006, the film received 2 wins and 4 nominations for Oscars. The $8 million film ended up grossing $100.5 million globally, including $59.9 million domestically. Even more impressive, only 1,602 cinemas saw the movie throughout its broadest distribution. When the movie's opening night was met with a standing ovation, Fox Searchlight seized the chance to purchase it for the pittance of $10.5 million. The movie is still a fan favorite among viewers today. 4. Annabelle. Despite some unfavorable reviews from reviewers, Annabelle was made on a $6.5 million budget and was a huge success in theaters. The eagerly anticipated horror film brought in $37.1 million. Naturally, the fact that the movie was a spin-off from the popular Conjuring series helped. Following the success of Annabelle, a prequel titled Annabelle: Creation was published in 2017. Due to Annabelle's success, a prequel was made with a $15 million budget, and it ended up grossing an astounding $306.5 million globally, including $102 million domestically. 5. My Big Fat Greek Wedding. The theatrical run of My Big Fat Greek Wedding was almost a full year. The movie was able to make a lot of money because of its lengthy run. A $5 million budget generated $368.7 million, $241.4 million domestically, in revenue. Despite only being shown on 108 screens during opening weekend, the movie brought in $597,000. My Big Fat Greek Wedding made up to number 2 after 20 long weeks in cinemas and spending 17 weeks in a row in the top 10. Impressive nominations for awards followed impressive statistics. Both the movie and Nia Vardalos received nominations for Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars and Best Picture at the Golden Globes. Unfortunately, despite having an $18 million budget, the sequel fell short of the first. 6. Rocky. If you excel at Rocky trivia, you might be aware that the first movie in the successful series isn't even the highest-grossing one. Nevertheless, none of the subsequent movies came close to the absurdly low $1 million budget of the original, which nevertheless earned $117.2 million worldwide. Sylvester Stallone, who was unknown at the time, starred in Rocky, which took home 3 Oscars, including Best Picture. Over the years, the Rocky Picture series has grown to be so well-liked that it currently holds the top 4 positions for highest-grossing boxing movies. A staggering $1.7 billion has been made by the franchise since the film's debut in 1976. 7. Saw. The horror film Saw was and continues to be a huge hit. On a $1.2 million budget, it dominated the box office, earning $103.9 million globally. Saw has established itself as one of the most recognizable horror series in cinema, in addition to grossing large in theaters. The youthful James Wan made his directing debut with the first Saw, and he got off to a fast start, finishing the movie in just 18 days. Wan went on to be the brains behind the wildly successful The Conjuring movie series. The cumulative gross of all 8 Saw movies comes just short of the coveted $1 billion milestone. 8. Moonlight. The way that Black and LGBT culture were portrayed in the movie Moonlight was crucial. Barry Jenkins, the main character, has major life transitions, which are followed in the film. It explores the emotional abuse he had as a child as well as his difficulties with sexuality and identity. A cast of remarkable performances was followed by a memorable Oscars moment when it took home the Best Picture prize after La La Land was given it in error. The critically acclaimed film barely cost $4 million, but it earned $65.3 million globally. 9. Friday the 13th. Since the 1980 release of the first movie in the series, a huge fan base has developed. The only $550,000 slasher movie managed to attract viewers and bring in $92.7 million globally. Jason Voorhees, the well-known hockey mask-wearing bad guy, launched a vast franchise that included 12 movies, comic books, video games, and tons of merchandise. In the beginning, the original movie was made to capitalize on Halloween's popularity. Before a new Halloween was released in 2018 and overtook Friday the 13th as the highest-grossing horror franchise worldwide, it accomplished this and more. 10. Mad Max 1979. Despite being praised by critics and having a sizable fan base, the dystopian film Mad Max, starring a young Mel Gibson, was only made with $300,000. The futuristic Australia-set action movie from 1979 recounts a narrative of social collapse, murder, and retaliation. The movie earned $378.9 million globally, including $154.1 million domestically, which was once enough to break the record for the most profitable film in the Guinness Book of World Records. The movie is also credited with helping Australian new wave movies gain international recognition. 11. Split 2016. Split, a 2017 horror movie, was produced by M. Night Shyamalan on a $9 million budget, which turned out to be an excellent choice. Split was created by Shyamalan as a loose continuation of Unbreakable, 2000. The narrative centers on James McAvoy, a dissociative identity disorder sufferer who abducts 3 adolescent girls. In the end, the movie brought in $278.5 million globally. The movie garnered favorable reviews, with a rating of 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, and has been nominated for the Saturn Award for Best Thriller Film. With this film, Shyamalan crossed the $100 million domestic box office barrier for the 5th time. 12. Star Wars 1977. Star Wars, the masterpiece of George Lucas, hardly requires an introduction because, up until Steven Spielberg's E.T., it was the most successful movie ever made. Star Wars, which cost just $11 million to produce, made an astounding $775.4 million at the box office and went on to become a multi-billion-dollar franchise. In light of the franchise's double-digit number of sequels, prequels, television shows, made-for-TV films, novels, and merchandise, so much merchandise, Star Wars was only the top of the iceberg. Lucas had no idea how influential his modest independent film would become decades later. 13. Halloween 1978. The slasher genre became famous with viewers thanks to the 1978 American independent film Halloween, which also helped John Carpenter become a successful director. The film was merely the first of a series that continues to produce television shows, books, comics, products, and even video games. With a $300,000 budget, the cult hit brought approximately $255.5 million globally. Jamie Lee Curtis's complete dress cost $100 at JCPenney, while Michael Myers' infamously terrifying mask was only a $2 Captain Kirk mask that had been spray-painted white. The actors performed a number of scenes in a single take because the production was so cheap. 14. Lost in Translation. With 3 other nominations, including an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, Sofia Coppola's film Lost in Translation, starring Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson, took home the prize. The grimly humorous movie cost $4 million to produce, yet it grossed $119.7 million worldwide, including $44.6 million in the United States. Only 23 screens were available when the movie first debuted, with an average ticket price per theater of just over $40,000. This was the highest per theater average for a film of this size in 2003. Despite the limited distribution, it was in cinemas for 196 days and still managed to perform well at the box office. Due to Sofia Coppola's prior success with The Virgin Suicides and a widely praised performance by Bill Murray, the movie attracted significant buzz. 15. Pulp Fiction. In Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino has grown to be one of the most well-known figures thanks to his 90s blockbusters. Tarantino received 7 Oscar nominations, an Academy Award, an Oscar, and a Palme d'Or Award at Cannes with Pulp Fiction, which established a sizable cult following. The famous movie, which cost $8 million to make, outperformed forecasts by earning $213.9 million globally. It's not surprising the movie went well in theaters given its stellar cast, which also included John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, Tim Roth, Ving Rhames, and Uma Thurman. Pulp Fiction has continued to be a cultural phenomenon since its 1994 premiere. 16. Napoleon Dynamite. On a meager $400,000 budget, the 2004 comedy Napoleon Dynamite was produced. Jon Heder, who plays the title character in the movie, was only paid $1,000 for his efforts on the film. Additionally, the film was edited on a Mac in producer Jeremy Kuhn's residence. Heder renegotiated his remuneration for the movie and gained a share of the earnings when it became a major hit. $46.1 million was made by Napoleon Dynamite worldwide, including $44.5 million domestically. The movie has a sizable fan base and was ranked number 14 on Bravo's list of the 100 funniest movies. 17. Get Out, 2017. Before he made his directorial debut with this horror movie, Jordan Peele was already a well-known figure in the comedy world. Even though Get Out only cost $4.5 million to produce, it became a tremendous box office hit. In the end, it brought in $255.4 million globally. Thanks to the inventive marketing strategies that helped Get Out earn $33.3 million in its first weekend, the movie was of a higher caliber. Despite being released almost a full year before the nominations were announced, the film was so well received that it received 4 Oscar nods. 18. Super Size Me. The way we view McDonald's and other fast food establishments has altered as a result of this documentary. In the 2004 film, director Morgan Spurlock experimented with eating only McDonald's meals for 30 days to see what would happen. To taste every dish on the menu at least once, Spurlock would dine at Mickey D's 3 times a day. Spurlock put on 24 pounds as a result, which also caused him to have higher cholesterol, have mood swings, and have liver fat build up. Despite having a $65,000 budget, the horrific documentary managed to earn $20.6 million globally. 19. Donnie Darko. Since its release in 2001, Donnie Darko has experienced a remarkable journey. Many people are still perplexed as to how this low-budget movie featuring Jake Gyllenhaal and Drew Barrymore came to be known as the timeless cult masterpiece it is today. Richard Kelly, the director, said, "The picture was shot in 2000, and the budget was $4.5 million. For a first film, there was a lot, but Drew was involved and she was part of the casting." Gyllenhaal has acknowledged that he has never understood Donnie Darko, despite the fact that the movie was made in just 28 days and is credited with helping to establish his career. The story, performances, and tone of the film won praise from critics and went on to gross $7.5 million worldwide. 20. American Psycho. Christian Bale's controversial movie made headlines even before it started shooting because of his talent. According to speculations, Patrick Bateman would be played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who would receive a $20 million check. The dark comedy that occurred on New York's Wall Street was a huge hit with viewers even if Leo never followed through. The movie generated controversy because some of the gory and sexually explicit scenes are difficult to see. But even the most gloomy scenes are filled with a hidden humor that fans adored. The movie, which cost only $8 million to produce, made $34.3 million in total. 21. A Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven wrote and directed the 1984 slasher movie A Nightmare on Elm Street. A A Nightmare on Elm Street was a bloody vengeance movie that followed in the footsteps of the Friday the 13th movies and introduced viewers to Freddy Krueger, a reincarnated serial murderer with sharp-fingered gloves and a burned face. The original horror picture, which cost $1.8 million to produce, would go on to have 9 sequels and gross $25.5 million domestically. The horror classic is credited with launching Johnny Depp to stardom in Hollywood. 22. Blue Valentine. The tragic independent film Blue Valentine chronicles a young couple, beginning with how they met and ending with what caused their separation. Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams gave powerful, haunting performances that contributed greatly to the movie's popularity. The duo executive produced the movie in addition to acting in it. Despite having a $1 million budget, the movie made $12.4 million globally. The film earned high marks from critics, and Gosling and Michelle Williams both received Golden Globe nominations for Best Actor and Best Actress, respectively. 23. The Terminator, 1984. Early in the 1990s, a tiny movie called The Terminator was released with hardly any advertising. James Cameron, the film's writer and director, had been residing in his car and had just been busted sneaking into the editing facility for his previous movie, Piranha 2: The Spawning. Cameron had no idea that The Terminator would go down in history as a legendary series. No one could have anticipated the amount of money that would roll in after its premiere, with a production budget of only $6.4 million. The movie eventually earned $78.4 million globally. We've all heard references to "I'll be returning," one of the movie's most well-known lines. It is stated hauntingly by the Terminator, who did return exactly as he had predicted. 24. Insidious, 2013. The technique of making a low-budget movie into a $1 million movie was perfected in this horror thriller. How was a movie this scary made for only $800,000 possible? When the little movie's popularity skyrocketed, directors and filmmakers were perplexed. Given that it was the most successful movie of 2011, many people referred to it as the new Paranormal Activity. Insidious centers on a family that learns that evil spirits have taken over their house and put their son in a coma. They learn that their house was not haunted after they leave and manage to flee. The film was well received by critics and word of mouth undoubtedly kept it afloat, as it eventually brought in a respectable $99.9 million. 25. Slumdog Millionaire. Although Dev Patel has had a fast-paced career in recent years, Slumdog Millionaire was his first big success. Jamal Malik, played by actor Patel, triumphs in India's version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. 8 of the 10 Academy Award nominations for the movie were winners. The movie's plot, soundtrack, direction, and performances all received high praise from critics. Even though the movie was a hit in the US, it sparked controversy in India because of how Indian society was portrayed, how young performers were exploited, and because the word slumdog was used in the title. The movie had a $15 million budget but brought in $377.9 million worldwide. 26. The King's Speech. Critics praised the historical drama starring Colin Firth for its accurate depiction of the life of Queen Elizabeth's father, King George VI, who struggled with a severe stammer. The film won numerous accolades, including Best Picture of the Year. This movie served as evidence that you don't need extravagant special effects or a huge budget to produce a movie that wins awards. Sometimes all you need is a compelling plot and top-notch acting. The film, which cost $15 million to produce, made $414.2 million worldwide. The movie dominated the UK box office for 4 weeks in a row. 27. The Passion of the Christ. Director Mel Gibson fully funded The Passion of the Christ, demonstrating his genuine belief in the project from the beginning. Because of the contentious nature of the movie when it was being made, no distributors were interested in distributing it. The movie received a R classification because of the violence, yet it went on to become the most successful R-rated picture in American history. The dramatization of Jesus' last 12 hours of life concludes with a picture of his resurrection. Some critics praised the movie as a religious classic, while others found the violence distracting and asserted that it included anti-Semitic undertones. Despite having a $30 million budget, the movie grossed a staggering $611.9 million. 28. Once, 2007. Nobody could have predicted how wonderfully Once would perform when it was released in 2007. The story of the musical centers on a street musician and a Czech immigrant in Dublin who, despite all odds, fall in love and communicate their feelings to one another through lovely musical performances. Once stunned everyone by earning $20.7 million on a $150,000 budget. The 2007 Independent Spirit Award for Best Foreign Film was among the honors bestowed for the Irish drama. The music for the movie, Falling Slowly, garnered a Grammy Award nomination, while the song, Falling Slowly, won the 2008 Academy Award for Best Original Song. 29. Open Water, 2003. Based on the true incident of Tom and Eileen Lonergan, who were abandoned at sea while traveling with a scuba diving group in 1988, the horrific horror movie is terrifying. The pair at the center of the shark movie are struggling to survive in the middle of the ocean. The information that follows is probably your worst nightmare if you are terrified of sharks. The couple eventually dies in the shark-infested waters that quickly surround them. $500,000 was used to produce the film, which had a very minimalist look and was totally shot digitally. It was successful in theaters, grossing more than $50 million globally. 30. Paranormal Activity. The Blair Witch Project's success served as a springboard for Paranormal Activity, which adopted the idea of a found-footage horror movie. Oren Peli, the film's first-time director, shot the original version in a week. After observing its popularity at film festivals, Paramount Pictures made the decision to purchase the rights and then requested several adjustments, most notably to the finale. On September 25, 2009, it received a restricted release in the U.S. On October 16, 2009, it received a nationwide release. With a $15 million budget, this horror picture is the most successful ever produced in terms of return on investment, raking in $193,355,800 globally. 31. Night of the Living Dead. Although it was the one that gave rise to many other zombie movies, this one was undoubtedly the first to include them in the cinema. The choice of a black man as the film's hero and the intense gore it contained made the 1968 American independent horror film contentious. Because it is such a cult favorite, Night of the Living Dead was chosen by the Library of Congress in 1999 for inclusion in the National Film Registry as a movie that is culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The movie's $114,000 budget was exceeded by nearly 250 times, bringing in $18 million overseas. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so that you can see more movie facts videos by Tiggio.